If you spent your whole life feeling like you've been blamed for things that you didn't do, you're not crazy. That was me for a lot of years. I was the problem child, too sensitive, too dramatic, not forgiving, or whatever label they decided to put on me that day. If you've been in that situation too, I want you to know you were never the family problem. You were probably the family scapegoat. Scapegoating is hard stuff. I've lived it, and I realize now it was happening long before I knew what it was. In fact, it was probably happening for most of my life, and I had no idea. I've also worked with countless women over the years who are trying to piece their lives back together, but have felt the crushing weight of guilt, confusion, and rejection. And then for a lot of them, that's been followed up by estrangement in more recent years, which has hit them where it hurts all over again. Yet many of them still have no idea about dysfunctional family dynamics, including scapegoating, and how these things play such a critical role in their family story. Scapegoating is a behavior pattern that happens when one family member is blamed, shamed, or pegged as the problem, or the one responsible for holding all of the family's problems. That happens even if that person wasn't even involved, even if they did the right thing. Their assigned job in the system is simply to absorb and to carry all the pain, the hurt, the sadness, and all the responsibility for all the things for all the people in the collective. It doesn't matter what the situation is. The script will always be flipped to make them the ones that are responsible for all of it, to make them the problem, to make them the one with the greater sins, or to peg them as the black sheep of the group. So there's justification to dump everything on them. In narcissistic families or in families with heavy dysfunctional dynamics, the scapegoat is often the truth teller. They're the one who notices the cracks in the system and tries to draw attention to them. A great example of what this looks like is the Disney movie Encanto. The protagonist Mirabelle is the only one in the whole family without some kind of a special magical gift. Yet she's the one who can see what's really behind everyone else's gifts. She can see the crumbles and the cracks in the family system and that they are breaking from the inside out. But no one wanted to listen. They didn't want to see it or hear it, and they certainly didn't want to have their perfectly magical image tarnished, especially out in the community. So they hid her, they shamed her, they made her the underdog, and they created stories that she wasn't as good as the rest of them. So why does this stuff happen? Well, dysfunctional families need someone to absorb that blame and absorb that pain so that they can keep functioning in the only way that they know how. It's like a pressure release valve. Rather than addressing the real issues that are causing the real problems and risking to expose all of those family secrets, some of which have probably been hidden for decades, they pile all their bad feelings on one person. They pile all the negative things on one person so they don't have to deal with it themselves. Because without a scapegoat, all of the dysfunction would be exposed. And with one, everyone gets to stay in denial. So how do you know if you were the scapegoat? Well, you were probably often, like me, labeled as too sensitive, rebellious, unstable, or the one with all the real problems. No matter what you did. Might have been your good grades, your accomplishments, or even keeping the peace within the whole family. It was never enough. Your achievements were minimized and your mistakes were magnified, probably greatly. And even now, as an adult, maybe in our midlife years, you still feel guilty for saying no, for speaking the truth, or for setting boundaries. But sometimes these signs are not always that obvious. Sometimes they're very covert. In my case, I was 49 before I finally saw it clearly enough to figure it out. And it took some seriously bonkers stuff happening to finally make me step back and say, these people are nuts. I have no idea what planet they're on, but it's not this one. There's definitely something going on here. Because who does that? And then I found the answer. And if you too have found the answer, I want you to know you were not the problem. You were never the problem. You were the mirror. Family scapegoats are the ones who often reflect the dysfunction back at them. They're the strong ones. They're the ones who can see it. They're also the ones that some family members know have the power to expose the real truth and their real identity. And so being a scapegoat often means that you were stronger than you realized. You noticed, questioned, or resisted what was going on. And they don't like that. That's why truth tellers, like me, often get pushed out of the system or silenced, or they face character assassination so no one will believe them, or they may choose estrangement as a means of protecting themselves. Well, that's all well and good, but what if I have been the problem? Well, chances are great. If you're still watching this video, there may have been some less than stellar instances, but it's probably not as big of a problem as you might feel. And there's a lot behind that, more than I can say in one video, certainly. But if you watch some of the other videos I've put out in this playlist, I unpack a lot of those. So definitely be sure and watch those. But really, in situations where somebody is deeply entrenched in this kind of a pattern, and they are committed to staying in this kind of a pattern, they either shut me off a long time ago or they left nasty comments because they were offended by what I had to say and I just outed them. That doesn't mean we let things slide if there's been some issues. If there have been some missteps, I promise an apology goes a long way. Not a general one, but a specific one. Kind of like, there was this time where this happened and it wasn't okay, and I'm really sorry. And then when you know better, you do better. That's really what all these videos I make are about. They're really all about helping you do better than you might have done yesterday. And that's progress. If you like what you're hearing, I've created a free guide called Reclaiming Peace After Estrangement. Inside that guide, you'll find some quick and practical things you can do right away to turn down the temperature on those terrible estrangement situations or those contentious family dynamics and start to reclaim your peace. You can grab a copy of that by using the link down below in the description. If you take nothing else from this video, please let it be this: you were never the cause of the family dysfunction. You were not the problem. The shame and the guilt that you've been carrying was handed to you because they didn't know what else to do with it. But it was never yours to keep, and it's certainly not yours to keep now. Most of the women I work with have spent decades believing that they were the problem. That if they had just done one more thing or been better or stayed quiet or whatever, that maybe things would have turned out differently. But the truth is, scapegoating is never about the person who is being scapegoated. It's about the family's refusal to face their own wounds and to handle issues that they don't want to deal with. And once you stop carrying what isn't yours, you can finally begin to heal. If you're ready to go deeper into this work, I would love to have you join me for one of my Finding Peace After Estrangement book clubs. It's a safe place for women like you and me who are ready to untangle these family patterns, to break generational cycles, and to start our own healing journey. You'll find the description for that in the details below. Understanding scapegoating is a powerful tool. There's a lot to it, certainly more than I can cover here, and it's just one piece of the big picture. Check out this video right up here to learn more about some of the other common dynamics that drive estrangement. I'll meet you over there.